محمد وعلى محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وعلى Muhammad وجه فرجهم ومؤمن المؤمنات. I want to offer condolences to my community and to, most of all, the Lady of Light, Bibi Fatima Zahra, to the Prophet of Islam, Prophet of God, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, on, and to our living Imam, Imam Mahdi Sahib alayhi salam, on the beginning of the month of Muharram. As we deep sadness that I address you today, my community. Let's please start by reciting Surah Fatiha for Marhum Tahir Mumin and for Kul Mu'minin Madina. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Malik Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladhina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. In the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the beneficent, the merciful, the master of the day of judgment. Thee do we serve, and thee do we beseech for help. Keep us on the right path, the path of those upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not the path of those upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor the path of those who have gone astray. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Say He, Allah is one. Allahu samad. Allah is He on whom all things depend. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He begets not, nor is He begotten. Wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And there is nothing like Him. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Allahu samad. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. Wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad. Say Allah is one. Allahu samad. Allah is He on whom all things depend. Lam yalid wa lam yulad. He begets not, nor is He begotten. Wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. And there is nothing like Him. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We're not seeing as though today is Tuesday. It is recommended to recite Du'at Tawassul today. When we recite Du'at Tawassul, we implore intercession from the most beloved of Allah, from Prophet Muhammad, and the family of Prophet Muhammad, the 14 infallibles. So before we get started with Hadith Qissa, I would like to make sure that we take time to think about our intentions for the ibadat that we do. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. I'm easily distracted by the deceptions of this world. To guide me, you gave me a gift of the Immaculate 12. Even with the clear, easy path to salvation, I lie to everyone, even myself. There's no reason for me to ever do anything other than to acknowledge your greatness. But even when I pray, it's a prayer of the faithless. My good deeds and acts of worship are aimless, so you provided direction to me, the Lady of Light and Sirat al-Mustaqim, the house of Bibi Fatima Zahra and Hazrat Ali. For the sake of their blessed house and the family tree, I ask that you improve me, bless me, guide me, accept me, never reject me or any of my deeds, even though I may do them arrogantly. Purify me then, me and my brethren, each and every one of our sins forgiven, each and every one of our acts of worship accepted, for the sake of He who you have purified and perfected. Leave none of our humble gestures rejected. Give me the maximum benefit from each and every deed that can be. Give me more than I expected, even though there are small tokens of my affection. To your lofty position you stand alone in. What more can a poor man offer than in this destitute situation? You are the king, the master, the owner, the creator of all things. And then there's me. Without your generosity, has nothing, is nothing, except my prayers and my remembrance of you. I testify that you are one and never two, that Hazrat Ali is the only path that's true, that your greatness and my love for those who you love are, and my intentions are for everything I do. Please answer my prayers and make this pure intention true. Wa Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wajjal farajun. And now we're going to start with the story of the cloak, sourced by the light. For it was she who spoke about a house most blessed and purified above any other. The house of the light of Rasulullah, the house of the mother. The Prophet felt the weakness in his body. He told the father's mother, Allah is the only healer, there is no other. With the Yemeni over him, he would cover. Then Abu Qasim, he sat next to himself, sat next to his brother. And then inside this cloak came a light, bright enough to illuminate all sight. born from density, created from the highest intensity. In came the mother. May Allah send blessings on none other than Muhammad's family for all eternity. May he quickly return, my living Imam, to me. All five, inside a single Yemeni. Angels huddled tight on that night in paradise, stretching as far as the light could see, but they would never be as pure as the 2 + 3, a cloak like no other, a Yemeni, a comforter, sitting with the family tree, a perfect circle with immaculate company, God's love and his progeny. Their flesh is his flesh, blood is his blood. If you're at war with him, he said, you are at war with me. May Allah send blessings on Muhammad's family for all eternity. May he quickly return, my living Imam, to me. Hazrat Jibreel saw them run 5s and asked Allah if he could run 3 on 3. Allah said, fly from Ilayeen down to earth and deliver this message of purity. The 6th man among the 5 you are allowed to be. Assembled was the greatest team in history, the house of the light of Imamat, Ibadat, and of prophecy. The house of Fatima Zahra, her father Muhammad, her husband Hazrat Ali, Imam Hussain and Imam Hussain, children of the Lion of the Light, masters of the youth of paradise, Al-Mujtaba, and the king of the Shaheed, the sons of Qamar Bani Hashim, her progeny, the greatest angel in the Immaculate 5, the most beloved to ever be alive, the purest health the world will ever see. For the sun, the moon, the rotating cosmos, and the sailing ships were created for no other than thee. May Allah send blessings on Muhammad's family for all eternity. May he quickly return, my living Imam, to me. Now that we have spoke of the greatness of the event of the cloak, angels are surrounding you and me. Never again stressed nor oppressed, never sad nor mad will we ever be. If you have a prayer, he will answer. Now is the time to implore it on he. Whatever your request, this time is the best. For you and I, we have achieved success from this moment all the way to Akhirah. Rabbil Kaaba, Muhammad wa Muhammad sallallahu Allahumma sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad Allahumma sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad Allahumma sallallahu Muhammad wa Muhammad. Please recite the Surah Fatiha.
لا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله أنصاري أنه قال عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام وقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني زوفا فقلت له عزك بالله يا أبتاه من الزوف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يطلع له كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة يا رسول الله أتزن لي أن أدخل ما تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله أتزن لنكون معكما تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي
محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. And now, please keep us in your dua when you listen to Hadith Qissa. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
ما شاء الله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم عن جابر بن عبد الله أنصاري أنه قال عن فاطمة الزهراء عليه السلام بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي أبي رسول الله في بعض الأيام فقال السلام عليك يا فاطمة فقلت عليك السلام قال إني أجد في بدني زوفا فقلت له عزك بالله يا أبتاه من الزوف فقال يا فاطمة ائتيني بالكساء اليماني فغطيني به فأتيته بالكساء اليماني فغطيته به وسرت أنظر إليه وإذا وجهه يطلع له كأنه البدر في ليلة تمامه وكماله فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسن قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله فقلت نعم إن جدك تحت الكساء فأقبل الحسن نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة يا رسول الله أتزن لي ندخل معك تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا صاحب حوزي قد أذنت لك فدخل معه تحت الكساء فما كانت إلا ساعة وإذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمه فقلت وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي فقال لي يا أمه إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة جد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة السلام عليك يا من اختاره الله أتزن لنكون معكما تحت الكساء فقال وعليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي أمتي قد أذنت لك، فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت وعليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك رائحة طيبة كأنها رائحة أخي وابن عمي رسول الله. فقلت نعم ها هو مع ولديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتزن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسيي وخليفتي وصاحب لوائي قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتاح يا رسول الله، أتزن لي أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بزأتي قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وأومى بيده اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إن هؤلاء أهل بيتي وحاستي وحامتي، لحمهم لحمي ودمهم دمي، يؤلمني ما يؤلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عاداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم، فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم، وأذهب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكتي ويا سكان سماواتي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. فقال الأمين جبريل يا رب ومن تحت الكساء؟ فقال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبالها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. فقال جبريل يا رب أتزن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض لأكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبريل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرئك السلام ويكسك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت سماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدحية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مزيا ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم، فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبريل معنا تحت الكساء فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من الفضل عند الله. فقال النبي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر حبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفي جمع من شيتنا ومحبينا إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وهفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن يتفرقوا. فقال فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وفاز شيتنا ورب الكعبة. فقال نبي ثانيا يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني بالرسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفي جمع من شيتنا ومحبينا وفيهم مهموم إلا وفرج الله همه ولا مغموم إلا وكشف الله غمه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وكزى الله حاجته. فقال علي إذا والله فزنا وسعدنا وكذلك شيتنا فازوا وسعدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله يا إمام الرحمة يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين يا علي بن أبي طالب يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد يا قرة عين الرسول يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباكر يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلق، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها الكاظم يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلق، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلق، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله، وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله، اشفع لنا عند الله. يا يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا ساداتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وعدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا ساداتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين يا رب العالمين.
For Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, salawat. Allahumma salam.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. عن جابر بن عبد الله الأنصاري عن فاطمة الزهراء عليها السلام
ما شاء الله
بنت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله
أعوذ بالله
قال سمعت فاطمة أنها قالت دخل علي برسول الله في بعض الأيام.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It felt so bad turning off that beautiful version of Hadith Kissa that came on after the Tawassul. Inshallah, we'll play that one of the other nights of these 10 days of Muharram. Allah's created so many vehicles, created vehicles for us when He sent us down from heaven onto earth. He had created camels and horses for us to ride on. But as we travel on Sirat al-Mustaqim, look at all the vehicles Allah's created for us in the form of good deeds, dua, and then we have YouTube. And because of YouTube, we can now have this Dua Tawassul Tuesday in 20 minutes regiment, right? We have an 8-minute Hadith Qissa and a 11-minute, I believe, Dua Tawassul, right? So 7-minute abs may or may not have worked, but inshallah, 20-minute Dua Tawassul Tuesdays presented to you by YouTube. And inshallah, get us speedily down Surat al-Mustaqim. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jafar. Let's please recite Surah Fatiha for our marhum. Why do we do Surah Fatiha for our marhum? Excuse me. Because when you recite Surah Al-Hamd, you get the sawab of finishing one Quran. When you recite Surah Ikhlas 3 times, you get the sawab of finishing a Quran. So when we do Fatiha, recite the tradition of Fatiha for our marhum, we send them the blessings of 2 entire Qurans. And when you send a gift to somebody that you love, sometimes you take some time and actually buy wrapping paper. Sometimes you get a box and put the gift in a box and then wrap the box, do some, outer wrap, put a nice ribbon on it, Sometimes you take that box and put it in a bag, and then you put it, tie a ribbon on the bag and give it, right? So what better way to wrap up the present of two Qurans for our marhum? So the greatest gift we could give them, the gift of the Quran, two of them for our marhum. Let's wrap it up in the best wrapping paper, the best covering that we could wrap anything in. And that's asking Allah to send blessings on Prophet Muhammad and the family of Prophet Muhammad, hasten his successor. I hope that we asked for dua after Dua Tawassul, because it's one of the most important things to do. So let's ask for dua together. Let's start by asking that Allah send blessings. No, Allah, we ask that you shower blessings in the fashion of an intense storm of blessings on the house of Prophet Muhammad, and the house of Prophet Muhammad. Ya Allah, hasten his successor. And once those blessings are accepted by them and they acknowledge that they come from their lovers, us, their lovers, then we want you to listen to our prayers as we implored those that you love the most to intercede on our behalf. Please allow them to intercede on the granting of our prayers tonight. We first ask that you protect our living Imam. Yes, our living Imam will live until the designated time, right? But how many of our Imams lived sick? How many of our Imams lived under oppression, in prison, in discomfort? Ya Allah, please, we don't want our living Imam to go through the kind of sickness and discomfort that his ancestors, his grandfathers had to go through. We ask that you keep him healthy. Don't make him sick like Imam Zain al-Abidin. Don't imprison him like Imam Musa Kazim. Ya Allah, please give him strength and give him swift success in his work. Ya Allah, please allow us to be amongst his helpers. Ya Allah, please forgive the sins of our parents, sins of our marhum, the sins of our family, sins of our community, or community members. Let's pray for each other. Whatever dua we're doing, whatever ibadat we're doing, Ya Allah, please give the sawab to all of my community members, my family, my marhum, before you give it to me. Please, let us all share in the benefits of the blessings that you send. Ya Allah, please help the sick get better, help the troubled out with their problems, whether they be health problems, whether they be relationship problems, whether they be money problems, whether they be self-esteem problems, mental health problems, whatever pains our community and our people and our neighbors and our friends and our family, please alleviate all of them. Please help those who are helpless, help the widows find comfort, help the orphans find homes. Ya Allah, please don't ever leave us alone. Don't ever let us feel what it's like to be distant from you. Ya Allah, please accept all of our prayers. Please accept all of our ibadat, and please forgive all of our sins. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad waj'al farajum. All praise be to He who is uncreated. All praise be to He who is better than anticipated, whose allegiance can never be traded, the creator of the darkness, the creator of the light. It is He who is worshipped day and night. He is everywhere, yet He is unseen. He is the creator of the blessed 14. He is the only originator, the only creator there's ever been. He is perfect, merciful, He is the Almighty, and He is beneficial. He gives us everything we need and needs nothing in return. He is the giver of knowledge and the originator of anything we learn. His kingdom, well, His kingdom is endless. He is always with us. He's our friend who will never leave us friendless. He sees us even when we cannot find ourselves. He sent His message and then guidance with the Immaculate 12. He overlooks our shortcomings. Without Him, I am nothing. Without Him, I am less than nothing. Because without Him, there could not even be nothing, because even nothingness is a creation of His. We could contemplate Him for hours and still be in awe of the smallest recognition of Him. Yet He is more familiar to us than our organs within. It is He who is the OG, but He will never be outdated. He provides us with sustenance, even to the most hated. Please forgive me for all the times that I have deviated. On my behalf, Allah, please send blessings on Muhammad's family. May you quickly return my living Imam to me. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad waj'al farajum. My brothers and sisters, we gather in these nights of Muharram, and we look at what Imam Hussain, Bibi Sakina, what Kulthum, Hazrat al-Asr, what all of these personalities went through. And we looked for strength, and we looked for purpose. And we realized that Imam Hussain stood up for us. He stood up for Islam, and he stood up for freedom. What does that mean, freedom? Freedom. What's freedom? We just had the 4th of July celebrating freedom, right? Shouldn't speak of a celebration day today, but it was about freedom, right? What is that? Do we deserve to be free? Is everything free, right? And go into a store, can I grab something that's free? No, that's not the kind of freedom I mean. You guys know that. What about animals? Animals, insects, are they free? Are plants free? How about a rock? Is a rock free, right? Every piece of matter contains life. Protons, neutrons, electrons, are they free, right? Does that mean that the rock is free? How about this? How about this? Are we free? Are we free? If we're free, why are we free? Freedom has been the hope of heroes and the destruction of empires. Freedom has been celebrated, killed for, and even died for. We say Imam Hussain died for freedom. What does that mean? Didn't he die for Islam? So wait, is Islam freedom? Can anybody truly be free? What's with all these questions, right? Trying to listen to a lecture, and all I'm doing is asking questions, right? We celebrated recently the 4th of July, Independence Day, right? My neighbors, they still have leftover fireworks. I don't know if I'm going to sleep for another month. I don't know how many they got, right? 4th of July, big day of celebration all over the US, right? Parades, barbecues, fireworks, parties, right? Celebrating freedom, right? What's freedom? All right, let's start with the American concept of freedom, right? When the founding fathers founded as a nation and declared the independence on July 4th, 1776, what was it that they were declaring, right? They're declaring independence from an oppressive regime. Independence. Freedom is independence, liberty, self-determination, man's ability to determine who he is. You want to be a prince? Work hard to be a prince. You want to be a pauper? Be a pauper. It's up to you. Nothing will stand in your way, and that is freedom. And they signed this Declaration of Independence, and they gave it to the king, and it was signed by John Hancock, and now we're all free. Yay, right? Right? We're free now. What's this freedom, right? The Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights try to preserve our freedoms, right? The First Amendment protects our freedoms. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of press, right? That's freedoms, right? So it's freedom. Well, the Fourth Amendment, it prevents unreasonable search and seizure. Is that freedom? See, the First Amendment, it protects our freedom to do something, to speak, to worship, to assemble, to inform and be informed. Now, the Fourth Amendment, it protects our freedom from something being done to the individual, right? That protection is freedom to not have unreasonable search and seizure. That's a freedom, right? So according to the American concept of freedom, right? And that might be the concept. I'm not saying this is not freedom. We're figuring out what freedom is, right? According to us Americans, what American freedom on Independence Day, what John Hancock had in mind when they signed the Declaration of Independence, right? According to American concept of freedom, there's freedom to do stuff and freedom from doing stuff being done to you, right? Right? First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, right? Now, does this freedom apply only to Americans because we declared it? Does it apply to all humans, right? If it applies to all humans, does each country need to declare people free? You're free, our people are free, you guys are not free. Oh, you guys live in no freedom, right? What is it? Are animals free? If animals are free, who protects their freedom? Maybe the FDA, PETA, whoever puts those commercials, the super sad animals and adopt this puppy today, right? Do they look out for animal freedoms, right? What if somebody doesn't know what freedom is? Are they free? If you don't know what freedom is, are you free, right? What is freedom? Is it only in your mind? What about freedom from desires? Is that freedom? Epicurus, he was an ancient philosopher, right? He spoke of ethical freedom. He said that to truly be free, mankind must be free of his or her desires. Well, let me ask you this. What if I desire Coca-Cola because it's delicious? Does that mean I'm less free than somebody who wants a Coke but doesn't drink it because he knows it's bad for him, right? Shouldn't that be my choice if I'm free? Wait, am I being oppressed by this person judging me and saying that I'm not free because I drank my Coke? Or am I oppressing myself because my body should be free to be healthy, but my mind wants that delicious beverage, right? So what's freedom? You see, what is this freedom that we're looking for, that we're living for, that we're striving for, that people deny that there is a God because we need freedom. And if we have a Lord that created, watches over everything and predestined, then there's no freedom, right? Is your brain the only thing that's free since it controls the rest of your body? Can one part of your body stop your other body's freedom, right? Done, right? Your mind stops your body or makes your body go into a certain direction. So is freedom only in your mind, right? What is freedom? Kant, he contended, he's another, German philosopher. If he's not German, I'm sorry, but I know he's a philosopher, right? He contended that without proper checks and balances, freedom can be dangerous. He says freedom can be dangerous without proper checks. So if there's checks and balances on freedom, freedom's not freedom because it needs to have checks and balances. We'll come back to this later, not later today, but we'll come back to this concept later. Kant contends that freedom without checks and balances can be dangerous, right? So is freedom dangerous? Is that what he's saying? That we don't have freedom, or that freedom is dangerous, right? Well, hopefully now I've done a good job of doing one of two things. Either getting you to question, think about freedom, understand that freedom is something bigger than we have, that we could fathom, right? Or say, hey, Kamal, you're crazy. Why are you talking? You're talking, is a rock free? Really? Really? Well, is it? Is a rock free? Right? The bottom line is this. Who cares what Kant said? Who cares what Epicurus says? Or what the Bill of Rights says, right? Freedom is whatever you perceive it to be. Each and every person is different, and each and every person's mind can go to a different level and a different extent and a different place than another person's mind can go. So the concept of freedom is dependent on what freedom they perceive as, right? So whatever your concept of freedom, it can't be challenged. If somebody challenges, says that's not freedom, they're taking away your freedom. You have freedom to be free. You have freedom to think of freedom as freely as possible, right? Right? Try and say that 10 times fast, right? If one single concept, think about this. If one single concept of any person's conceived freedom is usurped or denied, then their freedom is limited, right? So if you limit somebody's freedom, say, oh, no, that doesn't count as freedom, then freedom itself is limited, and therefore it's not freedom, right? Freedom is denied, and if it's denied, we're not free, right? So in order, okay, I'm going to slow down, I'm sorry. So in order for freedom to truly exist, freedom itself must be unlimited. And if freedom is unlimited, it cannot be conceived or granted by something with limits. If the giver of freedom, the conceiver of freedom, right? The fashioner of freedom, the creator of freedom, whatever it is that created, conceptualized, birthed freedom and spread it through humanity and gave it to people as a concept that you are free, right? If that giver, creator of freedom is limited, then freedom is limited to the extent of its creator or its grantor, right? That's why. How can we have unlimited freedom unless if it comes from an unlimited source? And the only unlimited source is that of Allah. Allah is the unlimited source. And we have freedom because we have a God. We have freedom because it was created by Allah. We have freedom because it was granted to us by He who has no limits, right? If there was not an all-knowing, limitless creator, freedom would be limited to the extent of our intellect. You want to take that chance, right? You want freedom to be only to the extent that your mind could perceive it, right? If whatever our freedom is has limits, even if that limit is to the extent of our own intellect, our freedom is not absolute unless the creator of our freedom has no limits. That is why the truest form of freedom transcends our own intellect and has no limits. Why? Because Allah has no limits. Freedom being created or granted by anything short of Allah, by definition, would limit what freedom is. And so if our freedom is limited, that's not true freedom. Therefore, without Allah, there's no freedom, right? If there's not true freedom, it's not freedom by definition, right? And if it's limited, then it can't be true freedom, right? So without Allah that has no bounds, no limits, right? There is no freedom, right? Without He who knows no impossibility, without He who needs nothing, unlimited freedom would not be possible. Without Allah, freedom as a concept is not even possible. As a notion is not even possible, right? We talk about freedom of mind, freedom of body, right? Because Allah has no limits, our freedom has no limits, right? It's not limited to body. It's not limited to our actions, right? Our lives are free for self-determination. Our bodies are free from harm. Our property is free from intrusion. Our thoughts, well, our thoughts are free to travel anywhere and do anything because the depths of our imaginations have no limits, right? If our creator couldn't create anything, kun fayakun, if Allah wasn't the original one, the inventor, the unique one, the creator from nothing, if He didn't say be and it is, didn't need assembly parts, ingredients, tools, material, if He can't create anything, then we can conceive it more. Our imagination would be limited, and our mind would not even be free. But because Allah is the creator, because Allah has no limits, because Allah has no bounds, and because Allah is the creator of freedom, our freedom has no limits. And therefore, Our freedom is true freedom, right? Our bodies have no limits. The freedom of our hearts have no limits. The freedom of our speech has no limits. And the freedom of our worship, well, the freedom of our worship, that too has no limits. This is the freedom, the ultimate freedom, the unlimited freedom that was created and bestowed upon mankind by he who has no bounds, is the freedom that Imam Hussain showed us. There has no limits in its preservation. That's right. This freedom that is given to us by our Lord has no limits to our preservation. It is the very freedom, the limited freedom that is worth living for, worth sacrificing for, worth dying for, right? That is the price of your freedom, right? It is not to be given up, no matter what happens, right? Tyrannical government wanted to take freedom away, right? Bow down to me. I am your king. When Allah told Imam Hussain he was the king, when he let the people know, right? He let the people know, Prophet Muhammad let everybody know who would rule the people after he left, right? Hazrat Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain, right? They were chosen by Allah, right? Imams had multiple sons, some, right? But which son was it? Was chosen by Allah, right? Chosen by Allah, right? Imam Hussain was a designated king. The proof of Allah's existence on earth was Imam Hussain. The guarantee that our freedom has no limits, right? When he was asked to pay allegiance, to submit to lesser power, an imperfect, limited entity, it was then that he showed us the magnitude and the price of our freedom and liberty, wasn't it? It was then that he showed us what our freedom is and what our freedom is worth, right? Imam Hussain, though, right? He didn't stand up and say, give me liberty or give me death. No, he didn't say, oh, if I'm not going to submit to you. I'm not, kill me if you need to. No, quite the opposite, actually. He showed that true freedom is not being dependent on anything to ensure your freedom. See, Yazid, he declared himself the king of the empire that Prophet Muhammad built. All of the lands that accepted Prophet Muhammad, the grandfather of Imam Hussain, the love of Allah, the messenger is their leader. They were now being forced to pay allegiance to Yazid and his evil empire, or lose not only their freedom, but their lives, right? Imam Hussain, his family, they've been born in Medina. They were living in Medina, right? They couldn't stay in Medina anymore without giving allegiance to Yazid or being killed, right? So he didn't say, give me liberty or give me death. No. Imam Hussain, he did the opposite. He said, no, I will not be oppressed. Yes, Medina has been my home, but I'm free without it. As hard as it was to leave the city his grandfather built, right? Where his mother and his brother were buried, he could not, as the appointed king of free men, set an example of trading in freedom for oppression. No, he was not the only one who cared or was scared of what was going to come with a new government, right? It's not just Imam Hussain saw Yazid was a tyrant. Yazid was a tyrant everywhere, and everyone knew it, and everyone was scared of him, right? Everyone was scared of him, right? The people in Kufa, they weren't scared of this oppressive, ignorant, violent, sadistic, tyrannical, forcefully imposed king. The people of Kufa, right? They were scared of it. Who were the people of Kufa, right? They'd been enlightened by Hazrat Ali. Hazrat Ali moved to Kufa after the death of the lady Labi Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa Farajum, right? Hazrat Ali went there. He made it his home, right? This had been the new home of Hazrat Ali, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussain, Imam Zain al-Abidin, right? Oh, the people of Kufa, they loved Imam Hassan. The women of Kufa, they were educated and guided by no other than Bibi Zainab and Kulthum. The daughters of the Lady of Light guided the people of Kufa. They feared oppression, and they reached out to Imam Hussain. They said, we don't want to give allegiance to a tyrannical king. Either we know that you're the king. We know that you're the Imam. We know that you're our leader, right? Thousands of letters written from the people of Kufa sent to Imam Hussain, asking Imam Hussain to come and serve them, to lead them, and they will protect him and he will protect them, right? And he could live there without threat of harm, torture, or oppression. Come to us, Imam, come to us. Letters, thousands of letters, right? Now, just as familiar as the people of Kufa were with Imam Hussain, he was familiar with them as well. He knew that though he had letters from them pledging safety and allegiance, pleading to him to come lead them, reminding them of his duty as their Imam to come when they call him, he needed confirmation of their conviction. He needed to know that their intentions were pure and that their actions should follow in kind, right? So he turned to his cousin Muslim, the son of Aqil, who's the brother. Aqil was a brother of none other than Hazrat Ali alayhi salam, the Lion of God. He turned to his cousin Muslim and he asked him to journey to Kufa. He asked him to journey to a town that, though Imam Hussain was familiar with it, Muslim was a stranger to this town. Imam Hussain and asked him to go to Kufa, confirm the allegiance of its citizens, and report back to Imam Hussain before he brought his family, his children, his young daughters, his elderly aunts to Kufa. He wanted to make sure that they meant what they said. Muslim agreed. Now Imam Hussain, he looked at Muslim and he said, "You, my cousin Muslim, you're the son of Akil. You are a legendary warrior. Your father was a legendary warrior. You are a legendary warrior. Maybe when you show up in Kufa, the people in Kufa are going to be frightened by you, and they'll either reject you or pledge allegiance to you out of fear. I don't want that. So please," he looks at him, he said, "do me a favor. Take your two sons, Ibrahim and Muhammad, both under 10 years old, take them with you. And when they see these beautiful, adorable children whose faces were so cute that they would shine, right? Maybe when they see him, they'll know that you came in peace. They'll know that you came in peace." Now, what happened when they reached Kufa? Muslim was dead. Muslim was dead. Instead of pledging allegiance, the Kufans, they cut off Muslim's head. Who would have ever thought that one man would stand strong against an army of 500 soldiers of Ibn Ziyad? Before the brave Muslim had been shaheed, he left his boys in the care of Qadi, a good friend indeed. Ibn Ziyad, he issued a decree, a prize as ransom for the capture of the two sons. Qadi, with tears in his eyes, told the young boys about their father's demise. He regretted to tell them that they were in danger if they stayed in Kufa, but he pledged to help them reach the caravan headed back to Medina. He carried the two boys in his own arms. He covered them and he carried them so nobody would see them. He covered them in their two arms to the location where the caravan was about to depart. But the caravan had left too soon. The sky was dark. There was no moon. In the distance, as far as the eye could see, was the outline of the group of men who had already begun their journey. They already started going towards Medina. Now Qadi, he looked at the two boys and he said, "Run, boys. Run as fast as you can and don't look back. Run as fast as you can and don't look back. Don't stop until you safely reach the travelers for fear of attack." The two boys, they ran as fast as their little legs could carry them. The darkness of the strange land, they were both very scary to them. The boys ran and ran, but they could not run anymore. The little children, they got tired and they needed a rest, so they lay down on the floor. A man from Kufa, he saw the two boys, the apples of Muslims' eyes. He remembered the prize and he snatched the boys in his grasp. Back to Kufa was the direction of the next path. Now in a dungeon, these boys were immediately taken. The two young boys, they had been forsaken. They were alone, starving and thirsty, a room full of cockroaches. Their beautiful shining faces were covered in dirt. The two young boys crying and complaining to each other, and the jailer, he heard the two boys crying, and he asked them what they were crying, and he recognized the boys were from the household of the most beloved, the Lord of the worlds. He unlocked their cell. The jailer, he unlocked their cell and he pointed them towards a road. He gave them instructions on how they could get back safely to Medina, their home. Now 50 lashes of punishment were ordered by Ibn Ziyad to the lover of the house of Muhammad, the jailer who died while his punishment was being carried out. These boys, they walked all night. They walked all night despite their hunger, despite their fright. When the sun came up, they couldn't believe what they would see. Though they walked all night, they learned their lesson last time. They didn't rest this time, but they were not out of the Kufan city. The frightened boys, they climbed up a palm tree to stay out of sight. And then a young maid, she went to go drink from a small lake that was at the base of the small. A young maid went to go drink from a lake at the base of the tree, and she was amazed at what she would see. In the water down below, she saw a reflection of the young boys whose fate she didn't know. She took them to a woman she knew to be good. The woman was known as the wife of Harith. She was the lover of the light. She was a woman who, despite the fate of her husband, she would do what was right. She cleaned the boys' faces and fed their empty stomachs. She put them to sleep, and then home came Harith. He was tired and hungry and stomped around angrily. "What is wrong, my husband?" the good woman implored of he. "I spent all day looking for these boys so I could get a prize. I searched high and low with my horse. He got so tired that my horse died." The woman was worried, but she didn't say a word. She let the boys rest. The boys woke up in the middle of the night, terrified what they had dreamt. Harith had heard their voices and was furious. How is it that I spent all day looking for these kids and all along they were at his house? He was curious. He tied the boy's arms and the boy's feet and had them sit in the corner while his good wife wept. In the morning, he took the boys back to the Euphrates River. He denied the boys their last request to finish their morning prayer. Harith's servant and his son stood up to Harith to ensure that no harm would come. Harith, he took his sword and he killed the two men, including his son. And then he beat his wife with the sword. And then the two young boys, they held on to each other, trying to protect their beloved brother's life. The evil man, Harith, he took the sword and he did the unthinkable. He cut the heads off the boys and threw their bodies into the river. The bodies were still warm, and the current pushed the headless bodies together. And even without their heads, the young boys reached out and they embraced each other. Oh, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, please protect, please give solace to the orphans. Ya Allah, please accept our ibadat. Ya Allah, please send curses on those who bring harm on our Imam, on the family of Prophet Muhammad. Ya Allah. Allah, we ask on this first night of Muharram to rid us of all of our problems, to protect our families from all sadness. Ya Allah, please help our Baru Imam come soon. Bar Muhammad wa ala Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jawf farajum.
میں کربلا میں کھڑا ہوں لباس سوگ میں ہوں ہے اربعین حسین اور حسینی لشکر کا کروڑوں لوگ ہیں سارے لباس سوگ میں ہیں ہر ایک نسل ہر ایک رنگ ہر زبان کے لوگ نگاہ روضہ شبیر کے طواف میں ہیں لبوں پہ ہائے حسینہ غریب ہائے حسین خیال آتا ہے 61ویں سنہ ہجری کا اور اس محرم کا یہی مقام تھا ایک بندہ خدا جس کا حسین نام تھا جس کا رہے خدا میں ہتھیلی پہ سر اٹھائے ہوئے ہر ایک دور کے انسان کی آبرو کے لیے وہ اپنے دل پہ 72 کے زخم اٹھاتا رہا وہ اپنے جسم پہ زخموں پہ زخم کھاتا رہا قدم بڑھاتا رہا بس ایک عزم تھا انسان سرخرو ہو جائے بس ایک دھن تھی کہ انسانیت نہ مر جائے انسانیت پہ ہے احسان حسین کا احسان ہی تو ہے احسان کا صلہ ہر دل میں یا حسین ہر دل میں کربلا بیدار کر دیا جو زمانہ حسین نے بیدار کر دیا جو زمانہ حسین نے بے ساختہ تمام زمانہ یہ کہہ اٹھا کہ ہمارے ہیں یا حسین انسانیت کی شان بڑھائی حسین نے انسانیت بشر کو سکھائی حسین نے انسانیت کی پیاس بجھائی حسین نے انسان جب حسین کے پیکر میں ڈھل گیا انسان جب حسین کے پیکر میں ڈھل گیا انسانیت پکاری وطن عز و منتشا کے ہمارے ہیں یا حسین دنیا کے ہر ادب میں ہے حصہ حسین کا دنیا کی ہر زبان پہ ہے قبضہ حسین کا انسان سمجھ رہا ہے یہ رتبہ حسین کا تاریخ کو حسین نے حیران کر دیا تاریخ کو حسین نے حیران کر دیا، سارے جہاں کے اہل قلم نے یہ لکھ دیا کہ ہمارے ہیں یا حسین، سورے میں ماوتی کے اللہ نے سنایا، تخلیق کل میں انسان اشرف تجھے بنایا، انسان کا درد دل میں انسان کے اتارا، انسانیت کا مکتب گھر پنجتن کا رکھا، اس گھر نے پنجتن کے ایک شہر کو بسایا، پھر اپنا خون دے کے اس شہر کو سنوارا۔ یہ شہر نینوا ہے، یہ شہر ماریا ہے، یہ شہر کربلا ہے، یہ شہر کربلا ہے، دل ہے تو کربلا، دل ہے تو یا حسین، دل ہے تو کربلا، دل ہے تو یا حسین، ہمارے ہے یا حسین، ہمارے ہے یا حسین۔ انسانیت سمجھنے چلو کربلا چلو، ہاں تھام لو حسین کے دامن کو تھام لو، ہرجون اور حبیب کی صف میں کھڑے رہو، دل ہے تو اب حسین کی آواز کو سنو۔ فرماتے تھے حسین وہ انسان نہیں ہے، لوٹے جو دل کا چین وہ انسان نہیں ہے، روئے نہ جس کے نین وہ انسان نہیں ہے، ہنس دے جو سن کے بین وہ انسان نہیں ہے، انسان نہیں ہے، وہ انسان نہیں ہے، انسانیت بچائے وہ انسان ہے، انسان، انسان کا دکھ اٹھائے وہ انسان ہے، انسان، در سے وفا سکھائے وہ انسان ہے، انسان، جو سب پہ رحم کھائے علم و عمل بڑھائے انسانیت بچائے وہ انسان ہے، انسان، انسان ہے، انسان، وہ انسان ہے، انسان، انسان ہے، انسان، انسان کو حسین نے انسان بنا دیا، انسان کو حسین نے انسان بنا دیا، انسانیت کے لب پہ مسلسل تھی یہ صدا کہ ہمارے ہیں یا حسین، ہمارے ہیں یا حسین، ہمارے ہیں یا حسین، ہمارے ہیں یا حسین، ہمارے ہیں یا حسین۔ دو طرح کے ہوا کرتے ہیں جہاں میں انسان ہے جدا راستے دونوں کے بقول قرآن، آدمی ایک یزید ازلی میں ابھرا، ایک انسان حسین ابن علی میں ابھرا، اس طرف خام خیالی نیا اسلام بنے، اس طرف عزم جلالی کہ شریعت نہ مٹے، اس طرف سلطنت و دولت و طاقت کا غرور، اس طرف چھوٹا سا گھر فاقوں میں ہے منبع نور، ایک طاقت کے تکبر میں جو اترا کے چلا، دوسرا نانا کے مرکز سے دعا پا کے چلا، ایک 9 لاکھ کے لشکر کو لیے ساتھ چلا، دوسرا گود میں اصغر کو لیے ساتھ چلا، اس طرف نیزے تھے تلواریں تھیں اور بھالے تھے، اس طرف شوق شہادت لیے دل والے تھے، اس طرف جشن مناتے تھے زمانے والے، اس طرف بے کس و بے آس مدینے والے، ایک طرف تشنہ دہاں سب کے سب خشک زباں، ان کا مقتل تھا جہاں ریت ساری تھی تپاں، دور تھی نہر رواں، الحفیظ و علمان، الحفیظ و علمان، الحفیظ و علمان۔ کیا دل تھا دل حسین علیہ السلام کا جس میں کوئی خیال نہ تھا انتقام کا، دل تھا تو دل پہ کار رسالت اٹھا لیا، دل تھا تو دل پہ نور شہادت اٹھا لیا، دل تھا تو دل پہ بار قیامت اٹھا لیا، دل تھا خدا کے عشق میں سب گھر لٹا دیا، دل تھا تو دل پہ داغ 72 اٹھا لیا، دل تھا سنبھل کے لاشائے اکبر اٹھا لیا، حد ہے جنازہ علی اصغر اٹھا لیا، حسین دل ہے تیرا، حسین دل ہے تیرا، حسین دل ہے تیرا،
کربلا کیا تھی، لعینوں کی شقاوت کیا تھی، سوچ انسان کے سادات کی غربت کیا تھی. عید گزری ہے ابھی یعنی کہ عید قرباں، آپ نے پورا کیا ہوگا یہ رکن ایمان. چند شرطیں ہیں ذبیحہ کی برائے انسان. شرط اول ہے کہ کم سن نہ ہو، بیمار نہ ہو، اور بھوکا نہ ہو، پانی کا طلبگار نہ ہو، روبرو سامنے حیوان کے حیوان نہ ہو، وقت ذبح وہ گھڑی بھر کو پریشان نہ ہو. شرط یہ بھی ہے چھری بھی نہ دکھاؤ اس کو، ذبح سے پہلے قضا سے نہ ڈراؤ اس کو. ہو چھری تیز مگر ہاتھ ہو نرمی سے رواں، ایک ہی وار میں ہو جائے ذبیحہ قربان.
الحفیظ علما، الحفیظ علما، الحفیظ علما، الحفیظ علما.
اب جگر تھام کے اے مومنو یہ حال سنو، لو ذرا مقتل شبیر کا احوال سنو. ہائے حیوان کی دم ذبح شرائط اتنی، اور جس گھر سے یہ منسوب ہوئی قربانی، اس کی اولاد کی مقتل میں یہ توقیر ہوئی. کوئی بھی شرط ذبیحے کی نبھائی نہ گئی.
الحفیظ علما، الحفیظ علما، الحفیظ علما، الحفیظ علما.
شرط اول تھی کہ کم سن نہ ہو، دندان بھی ہو، دودھ پیتا نہ ہو، مر جانے کے امکان نہ ہو. تم کو اب مادر اصغر کی قسم اہل عزا، قتل اصغر جو ہوئے سوچئے وہ کیا سن تھا. تیسرا فاقہ تھا 6 ماہ کا سن، واویلا ایک بھی دانت نہ نکلا تھا علی اصغر کا، ایک بالشت کا کرتا تھا علی اصغر کا، دودھ پینا بھی نہ چھوٹا تھا علی اصغر کا. پہلا کم سن ہے کہ جو ذبح نہیں نہر ہوا، تیرے سہ پہلو سے معصوم کو بھی مار لیا.
الحفیظ علما، الحفیظ علما، الحفیظ علما، الحفیظ علما.
شرط دوم تھی کہ حیوان نہ ہو بھوکا پیاسا، اور ہفتم سے تھے سادات بنا آب و غذا. حلق تر کرتے ہیں قصاب بھی قربانی کا، اور 72 کو دم ذبح بھی پانی نہ ملا. جلتی ریتی پہ کہیں اکبر و عباس گرے، اور کہیں اون و محمد کہیں قاسم تے پڑے. ذبح حیوان کا نہیں حکم ہے حیوان کے حضور، یا نہ شبیر سے زینب نہ سکینہ تھی دور. شاہ ان کو وہ سوئے شاہ امم دیکھتے تھے، ذبح ہوتے تھے حسین اہل حرم دیکھتے تھے. منع دکھلانا چھری کا ہے پے قربانی، یا تھا 9 لاکھ کے نروے میں علی کا جانی. ایک جانا خریدار اعاذن باللہ، ہر طرف ظالم خوخار اعاذن باللہ. اپنے رتبے کا کسی کو نہ شناسا دیکھا، دیکھا پیاسے نے جسے خون کا پیاسا دیکھا. آخری شرط چھری تیز ہو نرمی سے رواں، تاکہ تڑپے نہ اذیت سے ذرا بھی ہے وہ. آخری سجدہ ادھر کرنے لگے شاہ خدا، کند کرتا ہوا خنجر کو ادھر شمر چلا. 13 ضربوں سے سرے سید والا کاٹا، اور مظلوم ہر ایک ضرب پہ دیتا تھا صدا. ضرب پہ ضرب لگی کہتے تھے اماں اماں، ضرب آخر پہ کہا ہو میرے عباس، میرے عباس کہا.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وجعل بر امام صلی
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma kala waliyaka hajatana hasan salawatuka alaihi wa ala alihi fi hadha lasa wa fi kulsa wa liyaw hafiza wa kaza wa nasa wa liyaw wa taskanu wa zakata wa tawakkahu fi hatu ila rahmatika ya Allah. Amin.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa jafar. Please recite a Surah Fatiha. كل المؤمنين والمؤمنات اللهم صل على محمد اللهم صل على محمد اللهم صل على محمد الحمد لله نعرے حیدری یا علی المؤمنات until tomorrow. Muhammad wa ala Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.